Yo, what is up, YouTube? I hope that everyone tuning in, whether live or later on, is having a wonderful day, is finding success in their daily routines, and is enjoying the year 2026 in general. We are now in August. I genuinely can't believe it. The time has flown by this year for me. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but that's been the case in my situation. Even though I took spring semester off, I still feel like I've allocated and occupied my time in a way that overall is productive. So, for instance, these last 6 or 7 weeks, I've developed a consistent walking routine, which has empowered me to expedite my weight loss progress and get all those happy chemicals that take place in the brain when you engage in any kind of physical activity. So, that's just one example. Oh, I got a pop up here. Let's see. Allow Google Chrome to find devices. Okay. Anyhow, I digress. Got to check something real quick, but I'm gonna be right here. Just gotta check my phone. If anybody has any questions or is there anything that's specific you would like to talk about, then feel free to put it in the chat and I'll take a look. I came prepared. I got a bunch of drinks here. A bunch of drinks. So I'm gonna try to make this the longest live stream I've done thus far. But we'll see what happens. Nothing is immutable. Everything is subject to change. All right. So, all right, got my drinks. Yes. Okay. So I've been able to allocate a lot of my time this year in a productive way. I feel like I've done a satisfactory job of pursuing my goals, taking the steps I need in order to make meaningful change happen in my life. I think taking spring semester off was a huge positive. And I do have an update on the college front, which I'm going to share. And that is that I'm actually going to be transferring colleges again. Didn't get in trouble this time, but I found a program online that's entirely online. It's coursework and materials, and it allows you to complete credits at an accelerated pace. I still need a decent amount of credits. I'm considered a senior, but doing it this way will allow me to graduate a year earlier than I'm on track to graduating now. Because right now I'm going to graduate in spring 2028 if things stay the way they are and I stay at this particular university that I'm at. And so by joining this program, I'll be able to graduate in spring 2027, which is important to me, especially because my mom hasn't been in the greatest of health. And I want to make sure that she's around and able to see me graduate college to become the first in our immediate family to do so. I mean, I was the first in my immediate family to finish high school, and I barely did that. So to now be going to university and being in a position where I can graduate and become the first in my family to do so would mean a great deal. So I'm taking that step also just because it gives me more time. I'm going to be able to take fall semester off and start in spring of next year and then graduate in spring of next year as well, as opposed to waiting till spring of 2028. So I'm really excited about what's in store, what the future holds. I've been very proactive in my routines. I've been, for the most part, hitting my 10,000 steps a day. There's anomalies here and there, but overall, I've done an extremely effective job. I'm on pace to getting below 300 pounds for the first time in a very long time. And I think that benchmark is going to be very significant and it could help build more momentum going forward as I embark on this weight loss journey. At my peak, I was 354. So to be at 302 today, it's a lot of progress that's been made, and there's still a lot more to be made. But I'm grateful with how far I've been able to come because relative to where I was, I've come so far. I'm in a much better place now. And without a shadow of a doubt, I know that I'm going to get the weight off. Bottom line, point blank, period. Welcome, anybody tuning in. Appreciate you all being here. My name is Tyler Adolfo, for those of y'all who don't know me. Just checking something. So one thing I want to get better on is that I'm so distracted by technology. Whenever I have technology in front of me, I can't just focus on one thing. I can't just doom scroll Twitter. I have to also read Reddit, like, or scroll Facebook and scroll TikTok, and it's a detrimental habit, I gotta say. And I'm trying to limit my screen time as much as possible, just because of how distracting it is and its ability to diminish focus. I want to make sure that I'm not destroying my attention span more than it already has been. Looks like we got 3 people in here. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Uh, Here we go. So yeah, what else is going on beside weight loss and school? Both of which are significant. A year from now, I'll look like an entirely different person if I keep up the momentum and pace that I've had going on for these last few weeks. And that's what keeps me motivated. That's what keeps me moving, is knowing that just 1 year from now, at age 29, I could be in a totally different place physically and thus a better place mentally. The two are intertwined. I strongly believe that. But it just requires the same level of consistency that I've had so far. And it's attainable. It's a smart goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable. It can be done. And then there's the education. I mean, switching schools, it's going to require me to switch my degree, but I'm not particularly bothered by it. Law school does accept a diverse range of backgrounds in their pool of applicants. It's not like everybody's a pre-law major or bachelor's of business administration major or philosophy major or political science major. Law students come from an eclectic range of backgrounds. And so I'll be switching from major in communication with minor in pre-law to a bachelor's of business administration, assuming that I get into this online program that I'm applying to, which will allow me to finish my courses at an accelerated pace, get my degree, have my mom be able to see me graduate and get that college diploma. It's going to mean so much. It's going to mean a great deal. It's important to have goals in life. It's important to have a destination that reaching, the act of reaching, instills us with a sense of purpose to keep going and to never give up, to never surrender hope. Let's see. Oh, we got a chat here. Echo Life 314. Do you like to lift heavy in the gym? So Echo, I actually haven't had a gym membership for, oh man, well, since the beginning of this year, I want to say, since like January. When I was at the gym, I was primarily doing cardio to begin with. Lifting is something I wanted to incorporate into my routine, but at the time I wasn't even exercising in general enough in order to justify adding more in. But it's something I want to do simultaneously to me walking. I want to get back in the gym. It's just financially right now, it's not the ideal situation for me to have a gym membership. I can do all my walking outside. It's summer. It's beautiful out. And I kind of prefer doing my walks outside to the gym anyways. I enjoy the scenery. And there's a lot of complaints I could level about the gym. And no, they're not all because I'm morbidly obese. I actually enjoy exercising. When I get around to it, I do what I started. I finish what I started. It's just the negative self-talk that often consumes me beforehand that's been such a barrier to my success and consistency in the past. And I think that's where I've been doing a much stronger job now, and that's what's been able to propel me to keep moving forward. At least these last 6 or 7 weeks, I'd argue that I've been very successful. I've maintained strong physical activity and been making better choices in the kitchen each week. What about you, Echo? Are you a big lifter, big into lifting? Oh, I just see you commented here. I have a hard time going to the gym and exercising in general. The gym pisses me off sometimes, so I just do like 2 workouts and leave. I've been there. There's been times where I'd go to the gym and I had gone in with the plan of staying for, I'm going to do at least a 3 hour session today, 2 hours of treadmill, 1 hour of lifting. And it ends up being 30 minutes to an hour if I'm lucky. That's happened to me. The OCD that I have, though, my OCD by its nature will generally be enough for me to stay an hour. So I got to do full blocks of things whenever I do things. So I can't just do like 39 minutes or 45 minutes. My OCD generally carries me forward when I was going to the gym. But I can see a similar pattern in like my exercise outside, and that's I always exercise for like at least an hour in a session, and it helps me get my steps done. I like breaking things up into multiple sessions as well, getting those chemical benefits, dopamine, endorphins throughout the day rather than at just one specific point. I consider it a critical part of my treatment plan. Bucel, I'm addicted to the gym in a good way. Welcome, Bucel. Nice to see you here. Hey, if you're going to have an addiction, why not have it be exercise, right? Exercise is a natural antidepressant, and I've never had an exercise session where afterwards I'm like, wow, I feel like trash. Every time I'm done exercising, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm on top of the world. Echo, when I lift heavy, I feel better. Okay, so you do lift and you lift heavy time to time. I'm curious to see what experience I'll have when I do get into lifting again. I don't got much at my disposal now to really do anything about it. I only have a 20-pound dumbbell, which I guess is better than nothing. Could work the arms, but that's all I can do for the time being. That and walking. Working I definitely never miss leg day with the amount of walking that I do. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be back into physical routines again. Bucel, have you tried Abilify? If so, what was your experience with that medication? So, yes, I was on Abilify in February of 2022. This was like month 5 of my 6-month long manic episode. I entered a partial hospital program, and as part of that program, I got put on a medication for the first time during my manic episode, at least like consistently. I was on like a short-term acting medication my first hospitalization, and I can't remember what it was, but they didn't prescribe me on anything once I left. And so Abilify, I believe I started it the same day I started this PHP program, so February 23rd, 2022. And Abilify was extremely effective for me because at the time I was dealing with peak levels of mania. I was in psychosis. I was having delusions. I was having hallucinations. I lost touch with reality. And Abilify, I know they say these things take like, a month before you see anything or maybe a few weeks, but man, it's different in everybody because even a week into that, my sanity started to gradually return. And within a month, I was feeling like sane again, like entirely sane again, which was huge because I had gone all these months without having my sanity. And I was amazed at how quickly Abilify worked. Like looking back on it now, I am amazed by it. It did facilitate the path for me going into a deep depression. And I don't want to say that as a means to dismiss taking this medication or, it all comes down to you and what your doctor decide. But once I realized that I had lost touch with reality, my depression heightened, it exacerbated. because I was ashamed of all the things I had said and done during mania. So what I would say is Abilify was super effective at getting rid of my mania, and I didn't stay on it in the long run. I believe the reason in my case was because of moderate weight gain. I was putting on pounds very quickly. I started off Abilify at like 180 pounds and very speedily put on some pounds. So my doctor took me off it pretty quickly and put me on other medications. And it took a lot of trial and error to get where I am today. But I do credit Abilify with getting me out of mania. It's not the best long term drug in my particular circumstance, but there's a lot of people who swear by it and who succeed with it, as I did. Sometimes I guess drugs are only meant for a specific period of time. Abilify got me out of mania, and that was huge for me. So yeah, if you have any specific questions about my experience on Abilify or anything else, feel free to ask. I'm welcome to share. I'm not an expert. I can't give recommendations to people or anything like that. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just speaking to my own personal anecdotal experience given the circumstances I've dealt with. And so, Inner Eight Hole. Hello, God bless your. May I ask if you have a cat? Inner, welcome. I do have a cat. I have a senior cat, a super senior cat, I think it's considered. He's 19, had him since June 2007. So, June of next year, he'll be 20 years old. We're hoping we can keep him as long as possible here. He's pretty healthy. For a super senior cat, I would say he's pretty damn healthy. Most cats around this age would like to be as healthy as my little Smokey. But, Yusel, did you experience restlessness with Abilify? Many experienced that with Abilify. Weight gain was your reason to quit Abilify. It's really hard to pinpoint exactly like a lot of the specific symptoms I felt in the aftermath of that because I had just come out of a 6 month mania and my faculties were restored, but I was now dealing with a lot of depressive side effects, symptoms rather, of bipolar disorder. I was experiencing the negative self talk. Racing thoughts was a huge thing that I was dealing with. It was consuming large amounts of my time throughout the day. Let me tell you, I mean, there's nothing people could say to me that the demons in my mind didn't tell me 1,000 times per day. That's how bad my racing thoughts were. So I can't really remember if restlessness was a thing of it. It certainly was with my mania. I was awake constantly with mania. I never really slept during mania. But so many experienced it. Okay. And weight gain was, yeah, I believe weight gain was the reason why many of the first few drugs I was put on, I ended up stopping. Some other drugs I was on were Latuda. Man, there were so many that I was on. The three I'm on now, I'm on Wellbutrin, a very high dosage of Wellbutrin, I might say, well above the FDA recommended, which I've been talking with my psychiatrist about potentially adjusting because there's a high seizure risk if you take too high of a dosage. But I'm on Wellbutrin. I also take lamotrigine and then Vraylar, and that's the trio I've had for about 4 to 5 months in a row now. I was on Lexapro earlier this year too, but my psychiatrist and I decided to taper me off of it and see how I would do without it. And I found my situation pretty similar. I mean, things haven't gotten worse without it, so I don't really see a need to go back on that particular one. The trio that I'm taking now, Wellbutrin, Lamotrigine, Vraylar, is so effective for me personally. No way, may your cat live forever. I appreciate that, Inner. I hope so, man. I hope so. So I'm asking because I'm currently unmedicated, but starting with, I don't know how to pronounce this one, but I'm just going to say Rexulti soon, which is a very similar medication to Abilify, but lesser known. Yeah, I haven't heard of it, but there's a lot of pharmacy drugs I haven't heard of. I mean, I've been on a lot, but as much as I've been on, I'm still never close to have developed the knowledge about most of them. So it's similar to Abilify. Okay. Yeah, I believe Abilify, if I'm not mistaken, is my psychiatrist said before that it's used to treat not just bipolar disorder like psychosis, but it's been used to treat schizophrenia too. Not sure if I'm remembering that right, but I'm pretty sure my psychiatrist said that at some point. If not, then there's no value in what I say. Ignore me. But it's was effective for my psychosis, anyways. Super effective with my psychosis. So whatever medication route you end up going down, Bucel, I do wish the best for you. And I would just say two things: is be an advocate for yourself at all times. If you ever feel a negative from a medication, make sure you express it and uh, express your concerns. It's very important. And then two, of course, to always correspond with and be in communication and understanding with your psychiatrist. It's important to have a great relationship with your psychiatrist. You want to make sure that what you're advocating is respected, but also what they're communicating is respected. Interhole says, what keeps you going and what makes you happy? What keeps me going is that I have a mom who depends on me and who I depend on in return. She's the reason that, I mean, I'm alive. She raised me since I was 2 years old, all on her own and to her own merit. I think she's done a solid job, and I feel like I owe it to her to make the most of my life, to try to create success, create a positive outcome for myself, and to whatever extent possible, maximize her own happiness in my life. So that's one of my primary motivators. What makes me happy? That's deep. That's a deep question, and it varies. I would say one of my idiosyncrasies is that I have a passion for public speaking. I've always enjoyed speaking in front of crowds. It's something I've done from a very young age. I used to study the rhetoric and speaking mannerisms of politicians on the C-SPAN channels without even having an interest in the particular political ideologies that were contrasted and compared, but with specifically being interested in rhetoric and performance. And that's why I ended up doing theater in high school. It's why I did public speaking contests and competitions in high school. That's why I joined the mock trial team at the university level. I've always enjoyed public speaking. So I would say public speaking makes me happy. The thrill of it, of being in front of a crowd, whether it's prepared or spontaneous, both are huge pastimes of mine. One of my goals in life is to become a Toastmasters international champion, to win the international speaking contest. It would be insane to do that. And let's be real, it's probably not going to happen. But once I get involved in Toastmasters, I'm going to be working towards that goal every single year, just as a hobby. And it's not considered work to me either. So that makes me happy. So, yes. So RxLT is an antipsychotic. So true. I have a bad relationship with my psychiatrist. I'm sorry to hear that. He doesn't follow science and wants to be this revolutionary psychiatrist that can treat patients without medication. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that, Bcell. I've had a bad relationship with a psychiatrist before, and I get rid of her. I know it's not always so straightforward. There's a lot that's got to be considered, and making a decision like that, it's a big decision. And I feel like the most important thing is making sure that you have like a follow up to what you're currently using. So, like, if you have a current psychiatrist and you're going to get rid of them, make sure you have another one lined up, and to whatever extent you can, anyways. Yeah, that sounds really challenging, Bcell. But it sounds like you're very proactive about your situation. You're taking initiative to switch and try someone different. Wow. I'm trying to think of the words for because you characterize him as he wants to be this revolutionary psychiatrist. And what comes to my mind, the words that come to my mind when I hear that is just like kind of foolishness and selfish in a way, to put your personal aspirations above the clients with which you're serving and putting them at risks so that you can have the possibility of being this eminent, renowned superstar in your respective field. It sounds like a very challenging, convoluted situation, so I wish you the best in that. And I will say, in my personal experience, when I switched psychiatrists, it was the best decision I made. I actually have a video where I talk about, I titled it, this was a few years ago now, but I walked out on my psychiatrist was the title of the video. And in it, I just kind of enumerate and explain away the reasons why the relationship was pretty much done and I needed to switch. And my advocacy for myself worked. I ended up being able to switch and get a different psychiatrist the following year. And then that one ended up retiring, and now I have a different one. And so altogether, I've had 4 psychiatrists in my life, 3 over the last 3 years, but still kicking. Inner 8 Hole says, when will your TED Talk happen? Funny thing, UMass Amherst, where I used to go to school, they had some type of partnership with TED Talks where every year students at the university or faculty at the university or people in the area could go to UMass Amherst and participate in like the tryouts or auditions or whatever they were called for having your own TED Talk. And I remember one of the sorority women who associated with my fraternity and who would come to a lot of our events, parties, whatever. She actually did her own TikTok, and it was mental health related. I'll have to try to figure out what it was called, but I at the time was making active plans to try and get my own TED Talk, and I never expected I would have a 6-month long bipolar manic episode, which would put me in a good place to try and get one, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't feel like I've done enough yet in my recovery to warrant or justify me having a TED Talk. When I think of TED Talks, I think of like super inspirational, like profoundly uplifting. And my story's mostly been one of despair so far and still I'm in the rebuild stage. And so I got to capitalize on what I'm doing now and continue to build more progress, I feel like, before I could have a story truly worth telling. Like maybe once I graduate college, even that could be a good comeback story. Once I have my actual college degree, which I'm close to having, I can say bipolar bounce back, or I don't know what the title would be, but the playlist of the bipolar videos on my channel here is bipolar breakdown. And I do anticipate in the future that I will have something with the title bipolar bounce back. I've considered writing too, but I feel like I just need that one additional layer of success, something very meaningful, graduating college or landing a good job or something that I can then use to say, look, I not only recovered and am surviving, but I'm succeeding and thriving. But I would love to do a TED Talk someday. That would be amazing. And it would just be there to continue to motivate, inspire, and inform others about something I'm so passionate about. It would mean a lot. Inner holes. I'm trying to find where last one. So when will TED Talk happen? Okay. Psychiatric nurses are good too, but they can't prescribe stimulants. Medication is just the most realistic route. Yeah, I think most psychiatrists would probably err on the side, like I'm sure there's not a consensus, but would probably err on the side that medication is generally effective and better to the alternative of not taking any medication. In my personal case, I can't speak to anyone else's, but in my personal case, I cannot fathom living without medication anymore. Just the risk, the potential for going into another manic episode in psychosis is very real. The possibility exists. And the probability of that happening is dramatically reduced by me adhering to a strong medication regimen. And the 3 medications I'm on have worked so good. I mean, they're phenomenal in every aspect of my life. Okay, maybe not every aspect of my life, but overall, the positives outweigh the cons. And medication can be a game changer for people. I feel like it kind of having a mental illness is so debilitating, and it does put you at a disadvantage. Anyone saying otherwise is kind of clueless, but I digress. Medication absolutely was a game changer for me, and I know it is for many other people. So I'm sure there's people out there who can succeed without it, but I just don't think I'm one of those people who can achieve that. Michelle says, good to hear that you have the courage to chance He also had people against his beliefs. Okay, yeah, I'm sure there were some people who definitely disagreed, did not concur with that other, or the psychiatrist's opinion, who was aspiring for being revolutionary. Interval, rooting for you. When will you finish your degree? So since I'm taking fall off, I'm now looking at a session that starts January 11th of 2027. And there's two spring sessions. The way the system works is they're divided into 8-week blocks. And during those 8-week blocks, you could finish as many courses as you're capable of doing. It's your pace. You work at your own pace. And so I want to finish it in two sessions so that at the end of spring of 2027, May, whatever day it may fall on, I'm not sure, but I'll be able to graduate and have my mom see me graduate. So we're looking at May 2027 in her. I feel like it's right around the corner. And as long as I keep up my weight loss journey, I could try to make some more progress here. And I could, if I lose 10 pounds a month, I mean, I could be in totally different shape by the time I graduate and look good for my graduation photos. So that's one goal that I'm keeping right now. So awesome. Very happy for you. Well, thank you, Inner. Appreciate it. Thank you for rooting for me. For rooting for me. Wow, I can't even talk today. I swear, it's something different when you're doing it live versus just making a video. I don't study. I don't study. See, this is what I mean. I don't stutter. I definitely study, by the way. I don't stutter nearly as much when I'm making a pre-recorded video, and I don't edit those either. And I'll talk 15 minutes to 30 minutes without stuttering once or messing up my words once. But when I'm live, it's just different. It's like the pressure's on. Not to that extent. Not that much, but there's definitely a little bit of a difference. Thank you, everyone, for sticking along, tuning in, and engaging in chat. I appreciate all of you. I'm trying to get this to be the longest stream I've done this far. I'm not sure what my longest is right now. I should probably check that, actually. Bissell, how did you change psychiatrist? I was fortunate enough to be able to change within the same network that I was in. And I guess that's fortunate just because trying to get one out of network would probably be a more tedious process than just changing in network. So I called the head of, like, the boss of all the psychiatrists at the network that I'm at. And I explained my situation. I said, look, it's nothing personal, but I just don't get along with, and I don't feel like what I'm advocating for is being heard with this particular psychiatrist of yours, and I'd like to switch. And he actually said to me, I'll take you on as one of mine. And that was great. He ended up putting me on the dosage of Wellbutrin that I'm on, which is a very high dosage. And just because it was so effective for me. And I would say it's been a game changer for me, Wellbutrin, more than anything else that I've been on in terms of dealing with depression and kind of giving me the confidence and courage to keep moving forward and be a participant in life. But I just called, expressed my concerns, and I was able to arrange to see him as a psychiatrist instead. And then he ended up retiring eventually, not too long after I started seeing him. And then I got a new psychiatrist who, I'm not saying age is the reason why I get along better with her, but she is a lot younger than the one that I didn't get along with from a few years ago. And I don't know, I feel like she's more in tune with the kind of problems that I face as someone with bipolar. She seems to understand pretty well the type of challenges that people with bipolar can go through and have to endure. Inner says, what's your degree in? Are you doing SNHU? My degree currently, if I stay at my current university, which I'm not doing, but I'll just say because I am switching majors, I would be a communication major with a minor in pre-law. But since I'm switching, and the program I'm switching to is University of Maine at Presque Isle, they have a program called Your Pace. If you've heard of SNHU, you might have heard of your pace. But it's a program that allows you to work at an accelerated pace, complete lots of courses in short time windows, and you get a college education for a fraction of the cost, get into the workforce sooner or get to grad school sooner than you would at a traditional university. And it's going to allow me to shave an entire year off working towards my bachelor's degree. So, I mean, finishing in spring 2027 versus spring 2028, that's a huge cost savings. And as someone who comes from an impoverished background, that's huge for me. I got to make sure I keep my loan obligations at an absolute minimum here. But I've heard great things about SNHU. What's that other one? I think the other one that does like fast paced programs is Western Governors University, WGU. So WGU, UMPI, SNHU all have phenomenal programs that help you work at a quicker pace and get your degree quicker. I actually had UMPI recommended to me by one of my YouTube subscribers. I can't remember their name. It was kind of like an off the whim comment on one of my videos. Hey, have you heard of UMPI Your Pace? And I've always had it in the background of consideration as an option. Bucel, how do you feel about your medication mix? I like my medications, the ones that I'm on right now. So for those who are maybe just tuning in, I'm on Wellbutrin, a very high dosage. I'm on Vraylar and I'm on lamotrigine. And the trio of this has worked well at preventing me from going into mania, which was a huge concern of mine and still remains one. But it stabilizes me in a way that I can be productive and actually accomplish tasks that I set for myself over the course of a day. I'm able to develop routines more effectively than I was than on other medication cocktails that I was on. So the current trifecta, the trio that I'm on, it's worked really well for me. I like it. And if there's ever a need to change, I'm open to doing so. But I feel like there's no reason to mess with what's working in a sense. I'm sure there's probably combinations out there that could work better, but I feel like what I have right now is already working so good. I don't want to take the risk of jeopardizing that just to get something that might be marginally better, or you know what I mean? So I know the journey's different for everyone. It took me a long time to get these medications. So, I mean, to get them right. So I'm grateful to finally actually have something that I feel like really helps me. Where was I in chat? Okay, the one that I don't get along with is old as well, and the one that I do get along with understands me and my illness, and is young. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit similar to what I was mentioning with my psychiatrist, and yeah, I think age demographics is important in these kind of things. I mean, they can be. They're not necessarily always the biggest mitigating factor in whether or not the relationship will be successful and that results will be produced. But I do think it plays a role that many people will probably dismiss. It can definitely play a role for a lot of people, and I think it in some part played a role. And I could give some like more specific examples of like how that age barrier resulted in misunderstandings. And but like I could give one example right now is with video games. My former psychiatrist would make it a point to constantly tell me and make note about how she told me about how you understand Call of Duty is not real life, right? And like, I'm not dumb. Of course I know that, right? But meeting after meeting after meeting, she would say that, and I wasn't even like playing Call of Duty religiously, anyways. I barely play it now, but just one example: someone who's kind of a little bit out of touch with what's going on, like right now. They're kind of stuck in the past, their old ways. But that was what like one of the least of my concerns with that particular psychiatrist. If you're curious, in the video I go into detail about. I think it was two main things that really irked me that I elaborate on in that video. It's called "I Walked Out on My Psychiatrist." Interhole, what is your dream career job? It's been law school for as long as I can remember, become an attorney. as my like reach aspiration, the one that's unlikely, but that I would still like to reach for, is I want to be governor of Massachusetts. I feel like governor would be such a fun job. It would put you in a position to make such a positive impact if you know what you're doing. And I wouldn't run unless I knew what I was doing, which currently I do not. So I will not be running anytime soon. But that's my highest aspiration. But as it relates to law, I would like to practice social security, disability law, help people with physical and mental health disabilities, get access to benefits to help minimize the stressors of their lives and make their already difficult lives complicated by mental illness more bearable. And I've considered other options too, just because I am concerned about the impact that such a high stress field could have on my bipolar and mania. I mean, what if I go to law school and have a manic episode and then get myself hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and get expelled from law school and don't have a degree to show for it? Or suppose I finish law school, get barred, get a practice, get clients, go into mania, get disbarred, lose clients. You know, that's the type of thing I'm afraid of. So I'm open to other possibilities in life, even though it is my dream to be a lawyer. That's the number one goal of mine. And insofar as I'm able to manage my bipolar disorder successfully, and if I think I'm competent enough to be successful in that field, then that's the path I'm going to go down without a shadow of a doubt. Oh my God, out of touch. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best phrasing on my part, but it's definitely a little harsh. It's just the exact words I was looking for were kind of elusive to me in the moment. So I just used whatever came to mind, and out of touch was there. And I said, you know what? I really didn't like that psychiatrist. So I'm just going to call her out of touch. Not like out of touch with reality, but, you know, out of touch with now, you know, the modern times. Psychiatrists that want to treat patients with no medications say that medications mask important feelings to make progress in life. I don't agree with that, but I can see that it masks bad feelings. Yeah. So wait, psychiatrists that want to treat patients with no okay, so like the one you mentioned earlier that you're considering or that you are switching from. Yeah, I can see the sense in that, the logic of that idea. I don't agree with it either, so I think we're in agreement in our disagreement on. But um, I can see how it masks feelings. Oh, good another inner hole. I would recommend to not catastrophize. I do it and it ends with a panic attack. You're right, inner hole. I know catastrophizing is not ideal. It's a negative. It's definitely not the best mindset to be using. The best coping. It's not a coping mechanism, but the best way to deal with and manage a situation. And I do find myself falling into that trap every now and then. I guess you could argue that I just did a few minutes ago when I went on my tangent about my concerns about law school and its potential for negative. But I maybe in moderation, these things can be good because I feel like being proactive and knowing what your triggers are is important. But it's I agree with you that it's a whole other thing to catastrophize and kind of like fear monger about all the worst things that can happen. Fear monger to yourself. Be like, this bad thing can happen, this terrible thing can happen, so don't even bother. I do agree that that could be very damaging to someone. So I think mania masks feelings way more than medications. In my mania, honestly, the only feelings I really had with medication, I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of alienation and loneliness as a result of people distancing themselves from me. I felt like I was super important and extravagant and that I knew more than anyone about everything and had me feeling on top of the world at times. But I wouldn't want to go back. No, thank you. Inner hole. My dad always says, be calm when shit hits the fan and be cautious when things are good. Okay, I'm going to read that again. Anytime you encounter a piece of wisdom, don't just formulate a thought on it instantly. Give it a second read through and process what you're seeing, what you're hearing. So my dad always says, be calm when it hits the fan and be cautious when things are good. And I think that kind of encompasses just having like a proactive mindset, right? Taking action and initiative to get the best outcomes possible, doing whatever you can, whatever within your capability, using all of your aptitude to achieve what you set out to do. You got to be cognizant of things that could go wrong, but you should never catastrophize about them. Or so I like that saying. Yeah, that's a pretty deep thing. I could probably make a whole video talking about that. It would be ranting. It would be very verbose, but I feel like that would be an interesting thing to talk about. But what if you succeed? Yeah, and that always is the question, right? And we won't know if we don't try. So if I don't try to go to law school and don't try to become a disability lawyer and don't try to run for governor, I'll never know the answer of whether or not it was possible. And there's a very real chance that I can succeed in those things. I mean, finishing law school, I've always been strong academically. Becoming a lawyer, being a successful disability lawyer, I mean, I do mental health advocacy on my YouTube channel every single day when my videos are watched by people all around the world. Pretty small niche audience, but still making an impact in that area. And governor, I mean, hey, I've always been passionate about public speaking, and that's nothing short of a major asset in the world of politics. So, hey, these things are possible, right? I'm definitely going to try at these things. I'm not going to capitulate and settle for less or say there's no way that these things can happen. You know what I mean? Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Giselle, don't you think your medication will hold you stable as you graduate and become a lawyer? By the way, good luck. It's tough to say. And I feel like one of the things I need to do prior to law school is put myself under stress. Now, I know, hold on. It sounds ridiculous on the surface, but let's dive deep into this here. A stress test is more what I mean. So, law school is, as you can imagine, as I can imagine, I haven't actually gone, but people report that it's insanely stressful. People report that it takes copious amounts of time, that they do hundreds of pages of reading and note taking per week. And there's lots of memorization and things that are time consuming for the mind, things that can be taxing on the mind. And I do think that having a stress test, something to kind of replicate, not exactly the circumstances I would face in law school, but something that pushes me to my limit to figure out where my ceiling is, to figure out where my floor is, for the least stress tolerance to the most stress tolerance, figure out what my stress tolerance is. And I can do so by working a job and reading and writing every day and hoping that the triage of those things will give me some type of idea of what I can expect. So there's no perfect way to prepare, but I always believe there's a way to prepare for things. And I do think the medication, if I am to be successful, is going to play a paramount role in that. It's not going to be all of it, but it is going to be a huge part of the equation. So I need to just keep adhering to the routines that I've been developing. Be cautiously optimistic, I would say, if we're going to bring back the word cautious. By the way, good luck. I appreciate it, Bucel. I need it. And I mean that. I could use it. I'll never say no to somebody offering me good luck. Can you imagine being someone and be like, I don't need your luck. I don't need your wish of luck. No, I'll take it any day of the week. Just checking something on my computer. Sorry if I'm missing something in chat right now. Inner hole, heck yeah, brother. And I feel like the universe humbles me when I'm arrogant, so I'm afraid to be confident when I hope it goes better. That's an interesting relationship, Inner hole. I feel like the universe humbles me when I'm arrogant, so I'm afraid to be confident. That is a intriguing dichotomy there. Lots of deep thoughts today. Jeez. I don't think I got the philosophical aptitude to. Yeah, I've had many humbling experiences in my life. I would say mania was a humbling experience because I felt like I was on top of the world. I had delusions of grandeur, and looking back on those things, they're very embarrassing. But in the moment, I believed every aspect of it. I fervently believed that these delusions I was experiencing were grounded in reality. And it was humbling to come out of mania and recognize that all these things I'd been saying and doing were, in fact, grounded in falsehood, delusions, hallucinations, out of touch with reality, psychosis. My confidence kind of fluctuates. It has throughout my life. I will say that when I'm of a happy mind, when I'm content, my confidence tends to be a lot higher. And when I'm successful, and it's like when I was class president, or when I was on the mock trial team, or when I had multiple positions within my fraternity, when I was part of student government and got appointed to the faculty senate committee, like different moments in my life that boosted my confidence, that bolstered my confidence. And as I lose those things, my confidence starts to diminish too. So it's also, for me, tied into the tangible circumstances of my life. Bucel, may I ask how a day in a life is for you? Right now, not a whole lot of interesting going on just because I'm taking another semester off, but I wake up at a wide range of different times. So my sleep hasn't been super consistent. I'm sleeping well, but I'm not sleeping at the same time windows consistently. So some days I'll get up at 7 a.m., other times I'll get up at noon. It's brutal. But when I do get up, I take my first session of walking to try and get to my 10,000 steps. So I'll knock out 6 to 7,000 in a walking session by getting my coffee or going to the thrift store, getting breakfast and walking home, and then just walking wherever I can, going to pick up my medication when it's there, incorporating what I need to get done in the day into my walking routine. And so a lot of it revolves around hitting my 10,000 steps. I started reading again, making progress on a couple different books on Goodreads right now. One that I just started today is actually Deep Work by Cal Newport, which what I get out of it so far, I won't spoil anything, but it's centered on focus and the importance of focus. So I wish I could have a more intriguing day in the life, to be honest, Bucel, but outside of reading video games on occasion, watching Netflix on occasion, exercising, whole lots of manifestation and thinking about the future. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot going on. Had grandiose delusions myself, and damn, reality hit hard once I got out of the mania. Oh, yeah. Hit me like a Mack truck. It hurt like nothing else in my life has hurt before. It's a unique type of trauma, in my view. To lose touch with reality, to lose your sanity, to lose control of your intellectual faculties is a type of loss that I feel like once it happens to someone, it's something that people will grieve forever. It's certainly something that I will grieve forever. That period of time where I lost touch with reality is always going to stand out to me. It's always going to be a significant chapter of my life. And I don't say that with pride, but it's just, I feel like, the reality of my situation and circumstance. And so 40 years from now, I'll be able to go on this YouTube channel and look at videos that I made at the height of my depression, or look at videos I made in the process of recovery, look at videos I made where I reacted to myself manic. And it's really a wild epiphany moment to where you recognize that, wow, all that just happened was not grounded in reality. Where do I go from here? The answer is never clear. I still feel like I haven't found that answer entirely. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Yusel. Inner hole, I feel like mania is definitely a coping mechanism for depression, a way to get out of it, but it's too extreme. I mean, mania in itself is, right, extreme highs. So I feel like, don't take me out of context here, but highs are good and lows are bad. But when you have highs in extreme or lows in extreme, it's in those situations where adverse effects and consequences can start to emerge. That's what happened with my 6-month manic episode, when I had delusions, hallucinations, lost my job, got kicked out of university, and a whole array of other issues, lost my social life. When I had my multi-year depressive episode, I put on 170 pounds. I went from 180 to 350. And to this day, I'm still dealing with that consequence. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely get that. I hear people say sometimes, like, I miss mania. I'm so depressed, I'd rather be in mania. And I can totally relate to that. And one way I would kind of phrase my perspective on this is, mania is fun until it's not. So at the start, things might be going really well. In my case, I was very charismatic. I was humorous. I was lighthearted about everything. And I was able to make people laugh at just about anything I said. And it wasn't a laughing at me, it was a laughing with me, which felt good. It felt good to be funny. It felt good to be charismatic with the ladies. It felt good to have all these friends that I've never had, at least in that quantity, before. And then the delusions start and the hallucinations kick in. And what was originally charisma starts to subside and is superseded by these delusions and hallucinations. And it causes people to start distancing themselves. I feel like healing from bipolar is realizing I can be sad and happy without it being so extreme. I can also feel neutral or calm more often. Yeah, the last statement there that you mentioned, it makes me think of a little decoration that my mom and I have on our front door. And it's okay not to be okay. And we don't have to be feeling right at our peak at absolutely every moment. Otherwise, there would be no peak. A peak is different from the other periods and has to be distinctive in its own fashion and really stand out. It's okay to just be okay. It's okay not to be okay. We just got to keep an eye out for cognitive distortions, make sure that we don't catastrophize, make sure we don't develop black or white thinking. Or But yeah, I agree. I've started to have that realization as well as time has gone on. That bipolar, I can be sad and happy without it being so extreme. Kenny, nice here. Oh, Kenny, how's it going? Nice to have you here. Appreciate it. You are the first to mention. Means a lot. Thank you. Yeah, it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it, but I'm not the type to complain. I said that it came out perfect to the barber just because I don't like making issues out of trivial things, but I wanted it to be short and curls everywhere. But she got rid of the curls on the sides for the most part and then just shortened them up top. I just wanted them shortened all around. I didn't want like the buzz cut on the sides, but it's all right. The curls will be back in no time. It needed to be done. I was turning into a caveman. I was looking like the caveman version of Jack Harlow, and that is not acceptable. Bucel, same here. Bucel, when Mania started and you had a lot of charisma, can you talk about what type of friends you gained back then? And was those friendships made due to your mania? So in spring 2021, I pledged a college frat on my campus, the Kappa Sigma fraternity at UMass Amherst. And it was really challenging to socially adapt to the amount of conversational situations that I was now putting myself in, and to go from being highly introverted to highly introverted but surrounded by a bunch of extroverts. It's really a wake up call. And I do think that the awkwardness of it, the stress of it, the anxiety of it may have been a partial trigger to my mania. And it's almost like my body was evolving or responding to my situation, like how we've all evolved to do or to survive, right? And my survival instinct was to fit in with the extroverts. And gradually, I started to have that happen. And man, it felt incredible. I never felt so confident in my life as I did in my early stages of mania. And I had people regularly tell me that things, compliments like, "Oh, you're so well spoken. You should go into law, and you know, like, you should really consider doing this." Or, "How'd you get so smart? How'd you get so good at public speaking?" And I was very witty at the time. For some reason, I became a comedian and was very funny at the time. It's just all of these kind of came out together, and I think the circumstances kind of forced me to adapt. So the other question: what type of friends you gained back then, and uh, was those friendships made due to your mania? So I wouldn't say they were formed due to mania. I don't think mania was the catalyst for me developing these friendships. I think mania was ultimately the arbiter of destruction of these relationships. Because even though I was introverted, I did form these relationships. I got through it without being manic. The pledge process, became a brother, got initiated, got elected to multiple positions without being manic. And then I become manic, and people really start to like me even more than they did before, at least at first. Although some people kind of recognized, hey, there's something off about Tyler, something might be wrong. But those people were the exceptions. Overall, everybody believed that I was just becoming a more personable and more confident Tyler. But they started to distance themselves from me once the delusion started. I mean, I don't blame them. I know some people like to say in like the comments, and it's okay. I don't judge for doing so, but I've had some comments over the years to the effect of, "Oh, they're not true friends," and or they're bad people because they left you in that situation or whatever. But the way I see it is, we were all a bunch of 20-year-old somethings, like age 18 to 22 for the most part, except for me. I was 23. But you can't really expect, it's not reasonable, anyways, in my view, to expect people of such a young age to have such vast knowledge on how to deal with these situations. When someone's having a bipolar manic episode, it's not something that the average adult is educated on in order to understand and how to approach and deal with it effectively. And so I don't pass judgment on them. Do I wish things went differently? Do I wish people didn't distance themselves from me? Of course. It was hurtful. But I don't harbor any resentment because of it. Inner Hole, do you think black and white thinking causes mental illness in general and is a major root cause? Personally, I don't think any particular type of, let me think of a way to word this before I talk. So I don't think that any particular way of thinking is in itself the cause or origin of a mental illness. I do believe that environment plays a significant role, but I kind of concur with the science that says genetics also plays a major role, and in a sense is unavoidable, to the extent that if our genetics have us predisposed to have bipolar or schizophrenia or schizoaffective or any other mental health disorder, I mean, for example, having a history of bipolar in your family can increase your odds of being diagnosed with bipolar, the future generations of being bipolar. And to my knowledge, I don't know anybody in my family who has the condition that I do. It doesn't mean they didn't. Maybe they just went undiagnosed, but I don't think thinking itself is the catalyst. I think it's just really coming down to the genetic lottery combined with environmental circumstances, like having lots of trauma, I've read can be a major trigger to developing certain mental ailments. And so, if you have a genetic predisposition to a major mental health disorder, and on top of that, you're also experiencing major traumas that the average person doesn't, I mean, I think those things can kind of culminate together and really work together towards creating chaos. That's my view. Good topic, though. Kenny, autism, like what I have, also definitely causes black and white thinking too. Yeah, black and white thinking's always been one of those cognitive distortions that, man, I've resorted to it even before I was manic, which stands out to me. Like, even when I was in high school, I had a lot of black and white thinking, and it makes me wonder if I was demonstrating early signs of illness, whether it's bipolar or something else. But yeah, black or white thinking has been the bane of my existence in many different ways at many different times in my life. Sorry that you've had to deal with that, Kenny. I know how challenging it is. Bucel, I think weed triggered my mania, but I'm not sure. So I think weed also was a partial trigger of my mania. I think the main culprit was stress itself, but I mean, weed can be known to induce psychosis, and they do like experts will say they'll write about how people with these mental illnesses specifically are at far greater risk of experiencing psychosis if they use these type of drugs relative if the general population used them, their chances would be lower. And so I do try and avoid that kind of stuff today to the best of my ability. I'm not perfect with it. I'm a guy, I'm not a saint, but I definitely think it played a role in mine as well. Especially a lot of trauma in adolescent increased risk for psychosis. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I had a lot of interesting, I don't want to say interesting, but standout moments from my childhood that I categorize as traumatic moments of my life. You know, my dad leaving when I was 2 years old. It made me feel empty, made me feel like I wasn't good enough or not worth it to this world. Having extreme amounts of social anxiety and dealing with that, trying to mitigate the consequences of that throughout my early schooling, missing lots of school because of it. Another traumatic thing for me was actually asthma. I had multiple severe asthma episodes where I was hospitalized for as long as a week at a time, and they were terrifying, thinking that I was going to die any particular day because of my asthma, something beyond my control. And I was blessed to grow out of that, but it will always stick with me. And I think these traumas do play a role in the way I see the world today, and almost certainly are connected to my mental illness. Interhole says, "Do you think healing is experiencing the opposite?" Uh, you may have typed that while I was talking about something else. I lost my train of thought. If you could help refresh my memory, I'll be happy to answer. Experiencing the opposite of what specifically? Do you think healing is experiencing the opposite? Bissell, stress was probably what triggered it for me as well, and a lot of childhood trauma. Yeah, I think that combination is what happened in my case too. Oh, trauma. Okay. So, do you think healing is experiencing the opposite of trauma? It's weird because the traumas I've had were so significant to me, and I feel like they still maintain a presence in my mindset today and the perspective I have today. And I feel like they're always going to be there. And I'm in a much better position today than I was before in terms of coping with these traumas and accepting what happened and not moving on, but moving forward despite knowing what happened and having dealt with what happened. The other major traumatic event of my life, arguably the most traumatic event of my life, is what we've been talking about most of the stream and that I talk about in most of my videos, is the bipolar disorder manic episode, 6 months long. And then maybe second to that is the depressive episode that came right after it. So one thing with bipolar is just a double whammy, it's just punch after punch. It's like never ending. But yeah, thank you for bringing up interval. I do think that the trauma in my life has been pivotal in various moments in the way that I frame and perceive the world. And with time, I've been able to heal, but I don't think I'll ever be completely healed from what's happened either. So, Bissell, punch after punch, Wilson. Oh, I skipped the comment from Interhole too. I think I did. When my past manager yelled at me at work, it triggered my psychosis. So when I was working, I actually, like during Mania, when I was working, I lost 2 jobs during Mania. One with the Chamber of Commerce, another one working at a pizza shop. And the one at the pizza shop, I remember yelling and being angry and irritable at all times. And I actually lashed out at the store manager of the pizza shop, the one who hired me, the one who interviewed me and had high hopes for me. And I said just horrible things. I don't know how I managed to keep that job for as long as I did. 2 weeks. But if you saw the way I was talking to people, you would think that, wow, this person's being canned in like 10 minutes. But I somehow lasted 2 weeks. I have no idea. But I'm sorry to hear that happen in our whole. People can get psychosis triggered and it can initiate from so many different things. And that's what makes it so hard to be proactive about dealing with psychosis and being ahead of it. Is there's so many things you can't possibly prepare for, like every single little thing. But I feel like we could try to pick out like the highest probability things and do our best to manage. Okay. But it looks like we are caught up on comments. That's a first in a while. Wow. Appreciate all the chats going on today. Usually it's me ranting, talking to myself for probably 70% of the stream. This has been like 95% reacting to chat, which is fantastic. I love to see it. I'm just looking at my analytics so far for this. There have been 57 messages in chat so far. We've reached 7 peak viewers at one point. That's pretty cool. Wow. This is on pace to probably being the most productive stream I've had yet. Kenny says, if I were you, I'd accept 90% healed as healed enough. That makes sense because, I mean, striving for perfection, there is a quote I like. Perfection is not attainable, but if you chase perfection, we can catch excellence. So I do agree. Like we can pursue being as good as possible and reaching our ceiling, the highest we can be at, but we don't want to be in a position where we're 90% healed and think that that's a bad thing. So yeah, I like what you're saying there. I agree with the sentiment 100%. Bucell, psychosis is definitely the most traumatic experience. I mean, hey, one could argue that for sure. And I'd be hard pressed to find many arguments against it because, I mean, I experienced it myself. And I totally understand where anyone is coming from who says that. So, I mean, losing control of your mind itself is a whole level of trauma that I think most people just can't process unless they actually deal with it. Interhole, I have accepted I'll never get over the past, and the most I can do is enjoy my life as much as possible. And acceptance is, I would argue, an important part of healing. There's things from my past that I still regret a great deal. I mean, of course, the given is the things during mania, but even beyond that, like when I was a high school dropout, even though I went back and graduated, it still always kind of lurks from time to time. And I know that there's always going to be that feeling that I'll never be able to be back to like full throttle Tyler Adolfo, the 100% healed Tyler Adolfo. And that's why I really like what Kenny brought up is it's okay to accept 90% is healed enough. And we can still work towards the 100, but there's nothing wrong with being okay with 90. I really like that. Yeah, doing the best to enjoy our life as much as possible. I agree. There's a quote by a battle rapper named Disaster. He's from Lebanon, and he has a ton of rap battles online. Um, what was that quote he said before? I think it's something like, "We will all go out, like pass away. We will all go out like the animals that we are. So do your best to enjoy this life and live in the moment." Pretty descriptive. I don't know. I just remember him posting that on Twitter once, and it kind of stuck in my head, and it pops up in my mind every now and then. And your comment made me think of that, so I just wanted to share. And if you enjoy battle raps for some reason, Disaster is a great vouch. Check him out. He's absolutely hilarious, and he raps super fast. I don't know how he does it. Bucell, for me as well, worst part was that I was brainwashed by a cult at the same time. I was in a psychosis, and it fueled my delusions. When I was manic and in psychosis, you probably noticed or heard me say this in some of my videos. I became super conspiratorial. I don't know if you had anything similar or if you had any type of feelings related to uh, the cult, but one like major conspiratorial avenue I went down is I got in contact with InfoWars and I sent them an email talking about how I was John F. Kennedy Jr. People in the government were after me for trying to expose whatever, who knows. And I still can't believe to this day that I made that email. It's just bizarre to me. And there was another period of time where I remember seeing in the news that QAnon, that it was pretty prominent a few years ago. I don't think it's as high in number of believers today as it was a few years ago, but QAnon, uh, they were holding some type of rally many states away from me, and I almost booked a plane ticket to go because the headline said QAnon supporters awaiting arrival of JFK Jr. And me, under the delusion that I was JFK Jr., actually contemplated flying out to this state, going to this rally, and proclaiming myself JFK Jr., which thankfully did not happen. That would have just been another, I mean, it would have been another story for the channel, but I don't think it would have been worth the embarrassment and shame. Caitlin, hi Caitlin, welcome. Are you familiar with ketamine therapy? It can help with the PTSD from your episode alongside with depression and anxiety. Had a similar episode to you, and I'm considering it. I'm not familiar with it. I will write it down and check it out, though. I'm familiar with ketamine, not familiar with ketamine therapy. So is it used for like mood disorders, like specifically bipolar? I'm always interested in learning more about the different treatments, symptoms, anything related to bipolar. I'll always read about. By the way, thanks for being so open and authentic about your situation. It makes me feel less alone. Of course, Caitlin. That's my goal here. Well, one of my goals here. I have a few, but is make people feel less alone in their respective battles. Another goal that kind of coincides with that is fighting the stigma, this taboo idea that, well, mental health itself is a taboo topic, and fighting against the stigma that it can't be talked about, or you're weak if you talk about it, or you're a burden if you talk about your mental issues. I try to be open because it also helps me too, and it's intrinsically rewarding to know that it helps other people. So when I see comments like yours saying that it makes you feel less alone, it really makes my day because that's one of my fundamental goals. and it's very intrinsically rewarding. But then beyond that is it genuinely does help me too to vent and be open. And it's different for everyone. I respect 100% anyone who chooses to be more guarded in regards to specific experiences of theirs. I have experiences of mine that I am guarded about and that I'm not open about. I think it's a matter of evaluating on a case by case basis whether or not it would present any positives to yourself or others, and kind of just go from there. But that's the approach that I take with it. Kenny says, yeah, like 85, 90% is the new 100%. That's what I meant by my comment. Thank you for elaborating. And I still concur with what you said. I agree 100%. Or no, I agree 90. No, I'm kidding. I do agree. We don't need perfection at all times or really in anything. Being extremely good is still really good. Being really good is really good. Being good is good. Inner hole. Kickboxing helps my kickboxing helps my psychosis surprisingly. I wonder if exercise cleans the brain and maybe brain waste leads to psychosis. So on the kickboxing, that's really interesting. I used to do martial arts. I've done a few different martial arts. I did taekwondo for like 2 months when I was a kid. Loved it. Couldn't afford it. Another period of time, I did Muay Thai for maybe 4 months. And 4 months of Muay Thai, it really helped me physically. It made me more confident mentally. And it's cool knowing how to fight, knowing how to kick people's butt. I mean, come on. No, the goal is to avoid fights and be prepared in case you ever need to be in one. But man, I loved martial arts in general. And yeah, I can see the logic in saying exercise cleans the brain. There is that saying that I've heard before, and I mention it on my channel all the time, and that is, if the effects of exercise could be prescribed in a bottle, it would be the most effective antidepressant in the world. Now, I can attest as to how true that is, but I don't think anyone would argue that exercise is a bad thing or that it's not a good thing. And so, yeah, 100%. I agree that it cleans the brain. Bucel says, very similar conspiracy theories was a major thing in my psychosis. Okay. And the cult was also brainwashing me to believe it. And it also making me believe I was sent from God and I was a chosen one. Yep. I had the same, I feel like I'm saying this a lot today, but I had the same sentiment in regards to believing that I was like some Messiah or the second coming of Jesus or God, what have you. And one of the experiences I talked about on my channel was what happened at the church reactory. I was being escorted in a Hummer limo, which I paid $1,000+ for. And we pulled up to a Catholic church reactory. I went inside and I signed the guest book. They required you to sign in. I signed in as Jesus because I thought I was Jesus that particular night. And I left a little note with a phone number for the priest to call me, the Catholic father. And I left a note saying, I'm back. I regret that. It's not a choice I would have made if I was sane. But yeah, I'm relating to a lot of what. It's interesting to me how much similarity there can be between different manic experiences. It really is incredible. Interhole says, done is better than perfect when it comes to accomplishment. Wise words, my friend. So, as you once said, good is the enemy of the best, or something like that. Yeah, I do remember saying something like that. I can't. Now I really got to figure out what it was. This enemy, good is the enemy of the best, or was it like perfection is the enemy of progress? Was that it? I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly, but that does sound like something I recently said too. So, not sure why I can't quite remember that. I remember it, but I don't remember it. Inner hole. I looked it up. Exercise and sleep, clean brainwaves. Yep. And I consider both of those things to be critical parts of my treatment plan in addition to my medications. I think the exercise is just as important. Good sleep is just as important. I wonder why brain waste hasn't been studied in relation to psychosis. Would make sense. Yeah, there's definitely needs to be more studies conducted on these illnesses, and the more long-term studies, the better. So many topics that have been completely untouched. It kind of makes me think of like the percentage of space that we've discovered. It's often described as like we've discovered as much as space. It's the equivalent of taking a tablespoon of water from the ocean. That's how much of the ocean we've explored. That's how much we've explored of space. And I feel like it's probably similar. That's how much we've explored of various mental illnesses, including bipolar disorder. There's always going to be so much more to learn. Bucel says, actually, intense exercise can increase gray matter in the brain, which can be lost to a degree during mania. Yep. And it can make brain cell connections stronger and create new brain cell connections. Yes, I've read that. And I mean, that's excellent to know as someone with bipolar. And that's something I've touched on briefly in a few of my videos where I talk about how gray matter can be destroyed during a manic episode. The amount of gray matter in your brain can be reduced during a manic episode. That's how destructive it is. So it's not just consequential in like a tangible sense in terms of your life, but it also affects the chemistry of your brain, literally. And so knowing that exercise can mitigate the severity of that and can kind of help rebuild and create new connections, create new gray matter. It's the power of neuroplasticity, my friend. And I think it's important to know. And it should probably be emphasized more in treatment than it currently is. I've gone to lots of treatment programs, and exercise is hardly talked about as a method of mental health treatment. Inner hole. Am I skipping some? Okay, no, I don't think so. The lack of sleep for mania probably doesn't help psychosis and makes it worse. Yes, and that's one of the other main triggers, at least what I believe to be main trigger of the 6-month manic episode I had. I was in the New York Times, and it was after being awake for 5 days straight. And none of this is hyperbole, but this isn't exaggeration. I organized a sexual assault awareness campaign and a fundraiser for organizations that help survivors of sexual assault. And I was interviewed by the New York Times as a result of that campaign that I organized. It was a successful campaign that I facilitated. But in organizing it, I allocated disproportionate amounts of my time, which should have been on school or work, towards this project. And it resulted in loss of sleep to a severe degree. And I mean, loss of sleep can trigger psychosis. I think the stress I was under, combined with the loss of sleep, combined with smoking weed for whatever reason, all these things culminated together and triggered it together in my case. But yeah, sleep is definitely a major factor. Endorphins are good for depression as well. Absolutely. Yep. And nothing beats the endorphin rush of a nice walk or run, at least for me. I love it. When I was in high school, on the days we had advanced placement exams, I would always go for a jog the morning of the test, like a good 30-minute jog, just to get the heart rate pumping, to get that endorphin rush. And man, when I was in that testing room, sitting down, focused, I was locked in like on a scale that I just couldn't match without that exercise session. And I was able to get good scores as a result. So, Bucel, I think you found the exact quote that I mentioned. Best is the enemy of the good. Voltaire. Okay. Yeah, and I think I read that quote. It was shared by an author named James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. I'm pretty sure that's where I got that quote from. But yeah, the best is the enemy of the good. Thank you for finding that. It would have bothered my OCD not knowing what it was that I had said, but I definitely remember now. Interval. I've been hearing voices, and I didn't hear any of it while exercising heavily. Kinda miracle. So are you saying like the exercise has helped reduce it, or is it like gotten rid of it altogether? I'm just curious. Bucel, but intense exercise can also be dangerous, but it can because it can make some go into a manic episode for some people, especially. I did have intense periods of exercise while I was manic. Whether it was a cause for me, I don't think so much, at least in my case. Not saying that it doesn't happen to other people, but I do remember intense exercise while I was manic. And it's just because I had all this pent up energy and I could never spend it. And I bring up in some of my videos how I would walk for as many as 30 to 40,000 steps per day. And it's like, man, there was a memory I have. I was in the frat house with some of my brothers, and we were comparing our step count for the day. And it was early in the day, and one of the brothers pulls out his phone and it says 5,000 steps. Another brother pulls out his phone, it says like 4,500 steps. I pull out my phone and it says 33,000 steps. And one of the brothers is like, Tyler, where'd you go? And it was like super early in the day, and I already had 33,000 steps done. And this is while I was manic. And that moment always cracks me up. But inner whole seems like everything is connected. Yep. For me, what was really connected, what was intertwined, was the triggers of my psychosis. In my view, it was the loss of sleep, it was stress, and using THC, all of which, all of them was work together. Bucel says loss of sleep is my worst trigger for psychosis, one of the worst at least. Yep, one of mine as well. I was just saying, I've said before, I can't remember if I came up with this myself or if I got it from someone else, but I really like it. Never sleep on the importance of sleep. Never don't underrate how important sleep actually is, but never sleep on the importance of sleep. Inner hole. When I was kickboxing, I didn't really hear any voices because I was too focused on exercises. Didn't cure it, but seems like they're better even after the gym. Well, I'm glad that you found a healthy avenue to uh, get rid of that, or not get rid of it, but like reduce or lower the severity of that symptom you're having. Because that sounds very scary. I had it myself when I was manic, hearing voices. There was a military general I would talk to on the phone for hours, according to others who they tell me doesn't exist, which to this day boggles my mind because I clearly remember a voice on the other end of the line talking to me. But it's hard for me to distinguish because I'm somewhat psychic and I've heard my spirit guides talk to me, but most of it is delusional. Spirituality can mislead people. Spirituality definitely misled me during my mania. I mean, there's the Catholic reactor example. Another example in my mania was I met with a Catholic father, and this was relating to my belief that I was related to John F. Kennedy, that I was JFK Jr. I'm related to a former president. Isn't that something that made me feel so important? I told the Catholic father that there were people after me, and I was asking him to find some type of program for me to go to, recovery program that could also protect me from the people that were coming after me. And he said, I'll see what I can do. And then walked me to the door, opened it, shut the door, lock. I definitely spooked him that day. Spirituality misled me a lot during it coincided with my delusions of grandeur in my case. I think I've only truly heard my spirit guides one time, and it was verified. They told me a numeric code that was proven to be correct by my past friend. Interesting. I want to ask more on that with you in a moment. It does sound pretty cool. I've been interested in numerology for some time. I don't talk about it in my videos. I'm not like super well versed in it, but I've always been interested in like secret societies, numerology, and the way things can be communicated. I know that my name, for example, has a numerology of 133. And when I was manic, I made the connection that the word government also has a numerical value of 133. The phrase the White House equals 133. And I thought these things matching my name meant that I was going to be president someday. It was crazy thoughts that I had. But I've been interested in numerology when I'm both stable and when manic. It just manifests differently in each case. So I've read THC can increase the risk of psychosis 6 times. Oh, wow. If you consume it as an adolescent, 6 times. Jeez. Yeah, that's huge. That's not like a minor increase of risk. 6 times the risk? 2 times the risk would be pretty bad. 6 times the risk is just absurd. Yeah, I've read it can be especially devastating for people below like a certain age. I don't know if that age is 25 or what the exact number is, but people whose brains are still developing for the most part, if they smoke weed, it can formulate a really negative series of habits. Interhole, for context, my past friend needed to know a 4-digit code for his blaring fire alarm. Heard three. Turns out it was 3333. Okay. Yeah. The number is interesting how you choose threes. Three, as I mentioned, is the number that stood out to me, more specifically 33, but the phrase the White House equals 133, government equals 133, my name, Tyler Adolfo, equals 133. My favorite basketball player, Larry Bird, wear the jersey 33. Okay, not that example, but yeah, I see that number appear in my life so often. So that's so crazy how you chose to bring up the threes. I actually see that number all the time, all the time. And my mom has like her own specific number that she sees all the time. I've had a lot of people tell me that there's certain numbers that they see, and man, it really makes you think. Interhole, I would rather be clairvoyant than clairaudient. Is that how you say that? Clairaudient? Clairvoyance is seeing visions of the future. Pictures are 1,000 words anyway. What is clairaudient? I mean, I gotta look this up. I apologize, but I'm gonna learn something new today. Is that like auditory? Oh, clear hearing. Okay. Perceive sounds or words or voices that do not come from the physical world or normal. Okay, so I was definitely that, well, manic, if I'm pronouncing it right, clairaudient. Um, Interhole, I saw the floods back in May. They have happened in China and Texas, I heard. Further context, I asked my spirit guides to give me the number telepathically. Should look up synchronicity. Synchronicity, is that like patterns? Let me see. I've heard the word before, and whether I could define it is another story. Okay, no, it's a little bit different than that. What I thought it was. Synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence. It happens when an inner thought or dream matches an outer event in the real world at the exact same time. Ooh, that sounds a little spooky. I probably experienced some of that during mania. It wouldn't surprise me. I did make connections everywhere, even when there were no connections to be made. And I thought they were important to the world and certainly important to me. Teaching me a lot today, Interhole. Meaningful coincidence. The story of the scarab beetle, Carl Jung. Carl Jung, is that the famous like psychiatrist? Yep, Swiss psychiatrist and psychotherapist. Yeah, I recognize that name. I was actually just reading about him today. He had a tower where he would isolate himself to engage in deep focused work, study, and it was like an escape from the noise of the outside world, and it allowed him to produce a lot of the material in volumes of work that he did throughout his life. He maximized his productivity by isolating himself in this tower, and it was like adjacent to some lake, and very very fascinating stuff. But the story of the scarab beetle, I haven't heard that. Let me write that down. The story. Yes, he is the goat. When I saw the floods, I saw brown water and broken wood pieces and destroyed homes. When you see this, does it come like in the form of dreams, or does it happen while you're awake? I don't know too much about. Probably brought more drinks than I actually need. I want to check something in the analytics real quick. That's cool. So, 68% of the people who've tuned into this live stream so far did so by use of a phone, 29% by computer, and just under 2% through a TV. That's pretty cool. The thought that someone's watching me on a TV right now. I made it, mom. I made it. I'm famous. No. The YouTube requirements actually just got significantly increased, the requirements for monetization. So it's going to be some time before I hit it now. Previously, you needed 4,000 watch hours in a 1 year span of time in order to get your channel monetized. And I believe it's February of 2027, they're going to increase that to 8,000 watch hours, which if once that happens, I'm definitely not going to hit it anytime soon, but unless I go viral or something, but that's besides the point. Although I enjoy looking at the analytics, it's cool, it's fascinating. I like looking at numbers and data. I took advanced placement statistics in high school, and it was one of my favorite subjects. So I really like the data that YouTube provides. It's pretty cool to look at, but the primary reason I make this content is to help people. And if I'm helping even one person, then that makes all the difference to me. It means the world to me. Oh, we got some more comments in here. Sorry, guys. I was getting a little too focused on the YouTube analytics. It's in my mind, imagination. It's when I'm awake. It happened in the car my parents were driving. Okay. Yeah, I didn't suspect it was. Well, like I thought you were saying it was like during dreams. So, okay. That is very cool, though. So, having a good friend actually makes me stable, even though that may sound stupid. That doesn't sound stupid at all. It doesn't to me. I have a couple of cousins who are my go tos to talk to when I need someone to vent to, and I'll just contact them by phone and have a chat anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. And it helps me feel a lot better, makes me feel less alone. So, yeah, I can see the logic in that 100%. Inner hole. I don't know where the floods would happen, to be honest. Didn't take it seriously. It's not like I'm a famous psychic. Wish I knew and could have warned people, probably not sure. I had a vision of a coffin in the presidential office just now. Oof. Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds very spooky, Interhole. Does that like scare you, or are you kind of like used to it and kind of just like accept it as being something that you experience? That sounds like it would be terrifying to me. I used to see 222, 333, 444, and so on when I was in a psychosis. And I thought every time I saw it, it was a sign that I was on the right path, which actually was the path of psychosis. Yep. And I think that ties into confirmation bias. We want to confirm the beliefs that we have. We don't want to be proven wrong. It's why when people research things, they'll specifically seek out information that substantiates what they already believe rather than being open minded to new things. When I was manic, I only wanted to substantiate my delusions. I would seek out information that confirmed my delusional beliefs. And the patterns played a big role in that, thinking that things I saw on the news were somehow connected to me or the campus or my family. And it was a bizarre time for me. Inner hole. My third eye chakra is probably more open. Chakras are real. I've heard about chakras. I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar, educated on them, but I have heard about it. It's something I do want to, I'll have to write it down so I remember. But I've always wanted to look into it. And I've had people mention it to me before. And I'm trying to be more knowledgeable on like spiritual stuff. I mean, on anything, but especially spiritual stuff. My oh, I just read that. There's like when you remember something and you see it, but not a hallucination. I'm kind of used to the supernatural. I've seen sin on more days. Oh, okay. So when you remember something and you see it, but not okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for elaborating on that. I was curious how it like actually manifests itself. Bucell says you're on TV. What do you mean, Bucell? Am I? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen on the television who are currently tuned into my live stream. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here today. It means the absolute world to me. My name is Tyler Adolfo. Hope that you are all having an extraordinarily excellent day. And are people actually watching me on TV? I don't know. Am I just on your TV, or are you saying like I'm on some TV show right now? If it's the latter, I'm going to be a little concerned. Inner Hole, I'm glad you are open to my stories. Of course, Inner Hole. I've had a lot of interesting thoughts today. I appreciate your engagement, making me feel a lot less alone than I was before I started the live stream. So thank you, Inner Hole. Thank you, Sel. Thank you, everyone who's here. Yeah, I wonder how many chats there have been this stream so far. I'm going to check. It was like 50 something when I last checked it. Let me refresh. Wow, 103 chat messages this stream. That's awesome. We still have 7 viewers as the peak amount that have been here at any given time. That's pretty cool. Let me check the device type breakdown. Changed a little bit. So 68% of people by phone, 28% by computer, and now 3% are watching by TV. Anybody who's just tuning in, my name is Tyler Adolfo. I'm a content creator who makes content about my mental health journey, specifically dealing with bipolar disorder. This stream has no specific topic. It's just open to anything. So if you have something you want to put on the floor, put it in the comments and we can discuss it. I got to read more about Carl Jung because I know he's such an important, prominent figure in the history of psychiatry. I'm just thinking of that because I still have it pulled up on my search bar. And I read that story about the tower that he used just earlier today, the Tower of Solitude that he would go to isolate himself and just engage in deep focused study. I would love to be able to build a habit of that. Imagine how much that could be learned. And Inner Hole says Princeton Press sells Carl Jung books. Okay. Princeton Press, you said? Let me see what they got. I actually just bought 2 books today. I got To Kill a Mockingbird and Pride and Prejudice, 2 of the classics, just to add to my collection. And when I get to reading them, who knows? I have so many books backlogged. It's actually kind of crazy. I wonder if his work can. It could probably be bought on Amazon too, right? Let me see. Carl Jung books. The complete works of Carl Jung for $30. Man and his symbols. Ooh, that could be an interesting one. I'm title shopping, just going off the titles here, but that's not a bad deal. $12.59 for Man and his symbols. Yeah, I'm not sure which one I would get on Amazon. I'll have to check out some other sites too to see what else there is. Psychology of the Unconscious. Uh, these books are very highly rated too. I wonder how many he wrote. I'm gonna look that up. How many books did Carl Jung write? 20 major books and volumes. Wow. He stayed productive, that's for sure. He get busy. Wow, I have not thought of that. You saw. Uh, sorry. I'm not sure what you're referring to. You saw. If you put it in, I'll respond. I was just digressed. So I was looking at Carl Jung stuff. I'm not sure if you were referring to that or something else, but I'd be happy to respond to whatever it is you're referring to. Those are great books, and they're on Amazon. Yes. Bisel, nope, because he said 2% of those who have watched the stream was watching it on TV. That's why I joked to say, yeah. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, it spooked me for a moment when you said you're on TV, and I was like, wait, what? I'm on somebody's TV, but I guess that's still pretty cool. Carl Jung apparently had psychosis. Did he now? And he worked in the field of psychiatry. That's interesting. I'm still spiritually lost, but I'm still spiritually lost. I'm not an expert, but I keep experiencing stuff. LOL. Yep, I'm kind of on the same boat spiritually. I'm trying to maintain an open mind on really all fronts, but I'm not as well versed in the spiritual world as I feel like I need to be. So it's something that I want to become more in tune with. And thank you, everybody. Anyone who is tuning in, appreciate you for being here. We are almost at the 2 hour mark for this. I'm curious what my longest stream was. I meant to check that earlier, but I neglected to. Let me see. Content live. My longest stream. So it looks like my shortest was 33 minutes. And my longest was 3 hours, 15 minutes, and 18 seconds. Wow. That was my reacting to videos that I had filmed while manic. That was back in February. First stream ever that I did was December 14th of last year. So the live streaming is still something pretty new to what I'm doing on YouTube. Hundreds of long form videos, hundreds of shorts videos, but only 14. This is my 14th live stream. Okay, let's see. Inner hole. Me and my mom have joined multiple religions in the past, and we kind of just gave up on it. Are you giving up like in the sense of like formal religion or like spirituality in general? Just curious. I've always been a believer that you don't need a formal religion, or we gave up on formal. Okay, yeah, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think a lot of people have given up on it entirely or become apathetic about it, at least today, and can't really blame them. I mean, life is so busy, and my therapist says cobbling together my own religion. Okay, what do you think he means by that? I'm a little confused. Cobbling together my own religion. Almost done with my first drink here. Probably finding my own path. He said that I'm doing. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Now I know where you're coming from. 113 chat messages. Oh my. And it says one reactions. I'm not sure what that is, but this has been a great stream so far. I appreciate you all being here. I thought I would mostly be kind of just talking to myself here, so it's a pleasant surprise. I'm glad to have been caught off guard and actually have some engaging conversation here. It means a lot. Got some more comments here. Bucel, I have not thought of what you said related to what I said earlier about me seeing 222 and thinking it was a sign that I was on the right path. Did you say you saw like it was not just 222, but you also saw 333, right? The 333 is the one that I always kind of encounter in life during my mania, outside of mania. 3 3 is always seems to be omnipresent. Oh, and then also you said 444. Okay. But yeah, my thinking during mania wasn't particularly logical, and I made connections that weren't there. Saw patterns where there weren't none, or where there weren't any, rather. Interhole says the only religion we didn't try was Islam. Okay, so you did what? Judaism, Christianity. Those are the monotheistic, and then Islam's the third. What other ones did you do? I'm just curious. If you don't mind sharing, don't feel obligated to. There's so many religions out there. I mean, let's see. My dad literally gave our home address to Scientology 10 years ago, and they keep sending mail to this day. Oh, no way. Oh, man. I don't mean to laugh in like a mocking way. I'm just, wow, the extent to which they go through to try to get you committed, it sounds absurd. Jeez. I've seen a trend recently on some social media sites of people walking into the Scientology headquarters and going as far as they can into the building while recording. And yeah, Scientology freaks me out a bit. Or maybe I shouldn't say that. They might sue me. So never mind. I have zero thoughts on Scientology. That's my official answer. I don't want to get sued. I remember South Park made an episode just making fun of how they like sue everybody, and oh man, it wouldn't surprise me if they sued South Park for that episode. Bucell, my thoughts is that the big religions is an outdated guide for life. There's a lot to learn from those, but there's a lot of misinformation as well. Yeah, it's a give and take for sure. I always like the saying, can always make the best of a bad situation. And I guess applied to religion, take the positives and incorporate them to whatever extent you can and are capable of doing, and leave behind the stuff that isn't particularly beneficial or useful. Some people would say that's blasphemy to say that, but I mean, it's practical. Interhole says, we tried Hinduism, Brahma Kumaris, Christianity, also Buddhism, actually. Wow, you really did try out a bunch. I was brainwashed by a cult YouTuber named Ralph Smart. He has brainwashed a lot of people, unfortunately. I haven't heard of Ralph Smart. I'll look him up real quick just to see if it's someone that I may have seen before somewhere. Maybe I'll recognize his face, but not the name. I don't see anything. I don't think I. Yeah, I don't think I recognize it, but I'm sorry to hear that happened to you. There's people out there wreaking havoc on the globe, brainwashing scores and scores and scores of people. It's a sad thing to see. Inner Hole, I've learned to chart my own spiritual path and learn from multiple teachers. It's more helpful. That sounds wise to me. Expanding your horizons can't be a bad thing. Yes, also those numbers and that it was instantly assigned for those psychosis delusions. Oh, okay. Yeah, the 333, 444, and the 222. My dad purchased all the physical Scientology books, and he is proud of having them. He's Christian, though. Okay. So does he still like adhere to, or I'm not assuming he ever did, but does he adhere to the doctrines of Scientology today, or does he appreciate having them just as like a memory? Or Tao Te Ching, Taoism is my Bible, basically. You know what? You're gonna love this. Let me show you what I got over here. I look into this every now and then, not as much as I should or would like to, but voila. He was just silly to write down our address in their paper. Yeah, not going to pass too harsh judgment here, but probably wasn't the best decision. But I'm sure in hindsight he learned a lot. Bucell, yes, I do. I don't formally attend a lot, but I do consider myself a Christian. I don't consider myself a Protestant or Catholic. Or I have a video where I talk about how I'm a Christian and I actually hate church. I abhor it. I don't enjoy going to church. Maybe every now and then. There's been times in my life where I found it helpful, but I try to keep a lot of my faith to myself within my own solitude, within my own environment, and not relying on some formal authoritative figure in order to get my religious information from. But I do believe that there's a grand architect of the universe, that there's a divine creator, there's a God. And I don't pass judgment on people who don't have those beliefs. But it's just the beliefs that I have formed from my experiences and from what I've researched. And It's just how I feel. Hey, heck yeah. Oh yeah, you're referring to the Tao. Yep. How long have you been into Taoism, Interhole? It was like a log and a binder, and he did it even though it was optional. Yeah. So how after 10 years they're still harassing you guys? That's they're persistent. Got to give them that. He was just wanting to see the building, and I think he and my sister went into the lobby, and that was it. Yeah, they are pretty strict about, very stern about revealing their facilities, their buildings, what have you. Isn't like the wife of the president of Scientology currently like missing or has been missing for so long too? I think I saw some video about that many years ago, but lots of what appears to be pretty nefarious stuff from them. My mom told me Taoism is a deep religion, and I recently read half of the Tao Te Ching. Five Below sells it. Oh, that's you probably got a really good price on it then, huh? I believe mine was given to me by one of my friends from college. He also gave me uh, 48 Laws of Power, which I haven't really read into at all. I don't even think I own the copy anymore. I think I left it outside in the rain while I was manic. So that's how I lost that book. I'm glad I didn't lose the Tao and that I still have possession of that. Oh, I don't know why I feel so tired, but definitely got 8 hours of sleep last night. So I don't know what's causing this. Oh, the device type continues to tick upwards for TV. 4.3% of viewers who have tuned into the stream have watched from a TV so far. Tao is a good philosophy for life. I got to read more into it, but my gut feeling is that it's very beneficial. And so I do want to read it. It's just I'm reading so many books right now. It's I really got to lock in and focus on one thing at a time. Kind of ironic that I'm reading a book about focus and I'm unable to focus. I'm hoping reading this book about focus will help me focus. Bucel says, I'm obese as well, and I think it would be even more difficult losing weight if I live in the US. I haven't traveled to other countries, so I can't speak to what the culture is like in other countries in terms of dieting or what food options are available. But I do know that 70% of American adults are either overweight or obese on a BMI scale. I'm part of that 70%. I'm part of the percentage that's morbidly obese, which is dangerous, puts me at risk of contracting all kinds of deadly preventable diseases. And that's a big motivator for me to try and get things going on a positive trajectory and gradually lose the weight. It's still absurd to me that I went from 180 to 354 in a very short span of time. That's how hard my depression hit me after the mania. Uh, Interhole says their books are $5 ish. I'm pretty sure. Oh, Five Below. Yeah, Five Below. That's like a thrift store, I think. We have lots of thrift stores around here. We have Goodwills. We have Salvation Armies. We have local ones that only exist in one town, and they have pretty good deals. There used to be one in my town called Closet Classics, but it's not there anymore. Oh, it's not a thrift store. Okay, I thought Five Below was a thrift store. My mistake. But it's more like Dollar General. Okay. I read in the Tao Te Ching that the Tao is older than the idea of God. Hmm. I've never heard that. I'll have to look into it. Bicel says, "What steps uh, to lose weight continually? Would like to know as I'm struggling a lot with weight myself." So it is, of course, it's a two front approach. It's being able to have discipline in the kitchen and also being able to exercise consistently. I think the two things go hand in hand. And it is true that the kitchen plays a much bigger role, but I feel like exercising has such an intertwined relationship with the kitchen discipline. Like after an exercise session, I don't feel an urge to go binge eat because I don't want to undo the progress that I just made. And so whether the kitchen game is 50% of the equation or 80% of the equation, I think that both of these things are very important and they have a relationship with one another. One thing I've noticed with my weight loss is that it's okay to feel a little hungry at times. And I don't want to say this in like an extreme or that it's always the case, but I mean, we're literally evolved to constantly eat because our ancient ancestors, the cavemen, the cavewoman, prehistoric humans, they they didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And so whenever they had access to food, they would kind of just eat it. And now we're living in a world where we have constant 24/7, 365 access to food. And so one of the things I've had to tell myself is it's okay to go to bed feeling a little hungry. It's okay to feel a little hungry at times. And I try to connect that to the idea that when I feel a little hungry, I'm actually probably losing weight. I've been doing weekly weigh ins as another measure to try to keep myself accountable and maximize my success on this journey. So every Monday, I hop on the scale, weigh myself, and I've been doing that for 6 or 7 weeks in a row now. And I've been able to go from 318 to 302, which I know isn't like a super large amount, but it's progress. I'm better off at 300 than I was at 318. And I think just recognizing that it's not going to happen overnight. Weight loss is extremely challenging. Most people who I feel like become overweight or obese, they kind of, even if they lose the weight, they kind of stick to these bad habits, and the bad habits creep back into their lives, and it just results in them putting the weight back on. I've been skinny and fat multiple times in my life, and so that I'm just speaking about that from my experience, but I hope that's somewhat helpful. If you have any specific questions about other things I do for weight loss, or I mean, I use my phone to track my steps. On days where the weather's poor, I just do my steps inside my apartment, walking back and forth down the hallway. I throw some music on, and it's actually a pretty enjoyable experience with the music. Interhole says a single crumble cookie is 1,000 calories, so that makes sense. Wow, 1,000. I knew it was high, but yeah, I mean 1,000 calories. That's if you're trying to lose weight, and I don't know, say your diet is 1,600 calories for a day or something, then that's pretty much everything that you eat over the day, almost everything. You got very little wiggle room if you eat a crumble cookie. I've never had a crumble cookie and I want a crumble cookie, but maybe now is not the best time to have them. You eat them anyway. I can't blame you. I feel like being American is effing around and finding out. Yes. I guess that's for 70% of American adults, huh? 70% of us are either overweight or obese on the BMI scale. I don't even know if I have one anywhere remotely close to where I live. I'm going to see. Well, there's one reasonably close, but open till 10 p.m. Man, I might have to Uber eat some crumble cookies then. Because that could be really good. But maybe not soon. I got to cancel off this page before I order some cookies. Me and my mom joked about starting a cult, but we aren't serious about it. What kind of cult were you guys joking about starting? Curious what the context behind that is. Just reminded me, my mom's birthday was actually August 10th, and I got her a retro gaming system. I bought her a GameCube and got her a couple of games for it: The Sims 2, Sims Herbs in the City, and two games that we played together when I was growing up. And we were playing together the other night, and good bonding experience and lots of nostalgia to these games. It's good to have a switch from Call of Duty to something different, to go from Xbox to retro. I wanted fish flip flops to be the required shoes. Oh my. Basically, we called it the relaxation religion. I will pray for your relaxation was going to be the slogan. Okay. Sounds like you guys actually put a lot of, or a decent amount of thought into this. So is it kind of like an inside joke thing with you guys now? But hey, if there was a relaxation religion, I would probably sign up. I would certainly at least check it out, and I would give it the benefit of the doubt. And that's a nice slogan too. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, okay. Mm-mm-mm. Pucell asks, "What's your favorite type of exercise?" Walking. It's my favorite by far. It's easy on the joints, gets the heart rate going, gets me breaking a sweat. It's something that's convenient. I don't need a gym membership to do it. I could do it outside. I could do it inside the comfort of my own home. But easy on the joints is a huge advantage just because, I mean, being morbidly obese, we are at a greater risk of physical injury, and that could set you back very far if you attain an injury while you're trying to lose weight. And so I want to avoid that to the greatest extent possible. And walking seems to be doing the trick for me so far. If I do switch it up at a future period, I'll let you know. I'll update you all in some type of video or on a live stream at some point. But yeah, walking is my go-to. I want to incorporate lifting at some point. It's just I don't really have the finances to make that attainable at this particular period. But at a future period, I'll be doing it. Hey, y'all, I'm gonna take 10 minutes real quick so I can go to the bathroom, grab a quick little snack. So it's 8:46. I will be back at say 8:57. I know that's a super specific time. By the way, I'm watching you from a Viking city in North. Oh, that's so cool. I'm actually watching the show The Vikings on Netflix right now. I'm on season 4 already, and I've only had this Netflix for about a month. I mean, I've had it in the past, but this particular wave of me being on it, I've been watching for about a month now, and I'm on season 4 of Vikings and loving the show. Always been fascinated by any type of historical program, so I enjoy these limited historical series. But I will be back, y'all, at 8:57. See you all in a little bit. Let me grab my phone so I know when to be here. All right, y'all. I am back. Just a sec, everybody. I actually just got sick a couple times. That Chinese food did not sit too well with me. I just ate it so quick. I was trying to be back on time to the best of my ability, and but we are back in business. And I got some root beer. I got some reinforcement drinks to keep us going. Diet, of course. All right, let's see if we got any chats. So, if you didn't have the side effects with Abilify, do you feel like that medication would be enough? Like on its own, are you saying? So, like no Wellbutrin, no lamotrigine, no Raylar? I just want to make sure I'm understanding you right before I answer. I've heard Vikings is a really good show. I'm enjoying it. If you're looking for historical accuracy, you'll probably not enjoy it so much. But for strictly entertainment purposes, it's an enjoyable little show. I'm liking it a lot. Ooh, excuse me. In her hole, you should look up Veda Austin. She does work on water being conscious. So Veda Austin. Okay. It's a very unique name, Veda. I'll see if I could find it on. Is it someone on YouTube? Let me see. Oh, the hidden intelligence of water, structure, memory, and healing. Veda Austin. This will change how you see water forever. Okay. So I think I found the main video you're talking about. I also see a channel with 17,500 subscribers. I'm assuming that's her. Yeah, I see quite a bunch of videos actually with Veda Austin. So when I get a chance, I'll take a look. She's on Instagram and YouTube, and she has a website too. Okay. I don't think I'm logged into my Instagram on my computer, so I'm gonna wait to do that. But I'm just looking at the videos on our channel. Seven videos. Okay. I don't know if this channel is actually connected or not, but oh no, I think it is because the topic, living language, a water trailer. What can water tell us about pyramids, extraterrestrials, and the afterlife? Introducing the idea of intelligent water. That one's only 2 minutes, so maybe I could check out some of this at some point tonight. I'd be down to do a stream sometime, not tonight, but if there's enough interest, I can make a post and see if anyone would tune into it. But just reacting to viewer recommended videos, have the audience choose my viewing schedule for the day. I feel like that could be very fascinating. We'll probably get a very wide array of different topics and categories. Yes, please react to Veda Austin. I'll see. I'm not gonna just lie and say that I will. I have to see what kind of content it is, and if it's something I feel like I could say something meaningful about, then yeah, I'll definitely do it if that's the case. But I want to see if it's something that interests me first too, and because if it doesn't, then I don't want to have viewers tune into me sounding like monotonous or bland. Or it does sound like an interesting topic, so I am gonna check it out, and yeah, I'll make that post just to see if there's any interest for that idea more generally, and go from there. 9:03. Wow, I didn't realize it was getting this late. There goes the root beer. There's a few books I'm reading right now. I'll show you actually. I'll show you two of the ones I'm currently reading. The Deep Work by Cal Newport, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And I lie. I'll show you a third too. I haven't found success with this one yet, but notice how I'm at the beginning, kind of each book. The Guide to Going Viral by Brendan Kane. So if I end up getting a viral video, you know why. It's because of Brendan Kane's The Guide to Going Viral. I feel like it's just a fun book to read and get into, so that's why I bought it. I also ordered this book about how to start a YouTube channel and podcast. So I already did the first part, but I had someone mention to me before the idea of starting a podcast, and I thought it was pretty cool and something I'm considering. Not anytime like soon, but definitely leaving it open as a possibility for a future period. And of course, got the dystopian novel Hunger Games. I just recently watched the movies over again. I've watched them many times, and so now I figured I'd read through the books too. There's a lot I'm currently reading. So I wrote down a lot of stuff today from you, Interhole. A lot of stuff I'm gonna look into. See on my paper here. I think you brought up the ketamine therapy, right? And then chakras, the story of the scarab beetle, and Veda Austin. And I wrote it on my vocabulary flashcard that I use to add new cards to my vocabulary deck. So I'll definitely see it again and be reminded to actually do it, as opposed to just writing it on a random sticky note that I'll end up inadvertently throwing away. I'm glad you were willing to look up stuff I mentioned, of course. Yeah, I'm always looking up stuff that people suggest in here. I want to be exposed to the lens through which other people analyze the world and understand more and experience more. It's part of being human. How long have you been familiar with Veda Austin's work? For a few years, I've known Veda Austin. Okay, so you've known her for a decent amount of time. I'm subscribed to all sorts of content on YouTube, from like video game style stuff to commentary style stuff, sports themed videos, YouTube growth videos, some old channels of friends that I'm subscribed to. She's very cool, has a published physical book. Oh, okay. Let me see if I could find that on Amazon. If not, then I'll check out other sellers too. Oh, yeah. And a 4.8 star rating from 76 reviews. That's really good. The Secret Intelligence of Water, Macroscopic Evidence of Water Responding to Human Consciousness. Just the title alone sounds very intriguing. I'm just reading the description to the book. Wait, what? That can't be right. Buy used $4,999. What? No way. How? That's way beyond my financial. I don't know if they did a typo while they. Let me check the reviews to see what they if they mentioned that price at all. I've never seen a book cost that much ever. Hmm. Lots of good reviews of it, but nothing mentioning the price. I'm not even joking. It's it's for the hardcover, $4,999.99. Sheesh. Okay, yeah, I'll check the website. I knew there was something off about what Amazon's telling me here. VedaAustin.com. I see the cart icon. Oh, shop. Here we go. Let's see. Some webinars, different kits. Um, Wonder if that's one. The Living Language of Water, the digital version for $40. Uh, and then what else? Yeah, so I see a book here for $40. Much better than the 4,900. I'm not sure why Amazon says that. It must be like a glitch or bug or something. Oh, she has her own documentary too. Hmm. She and her team have been filling in locations such as Egypt, France, England, and the USA, interviewing the most inspiring people about the mysteries of water. Uh, Slot. Hmm. Oh, she has like workshops too for the tours that she's doing, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but crystallography workshop October 18th. And then it looks like quite a few like talks scheduled for 2027. She's just really cool. Love her. She expanded science. Yeah, I'm eager to see what this is about. I mean, I can read the title, but to get like more in depth on what her focus is and Ugh. I know I only just got back a little bit ago, like 20 minutes ago, but I'm gonna call it here. Appreciate everybody who is tuning in. I'm gonna play some video games for a bit, maybe do a little bit of reading, and then go to bed. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Uh, thank you so much to Interhole. Love, light, and tranquility to all.